and welcome to the Beautiful Feet podcast. My name is Pete and I'm joined by my co-host Karen.
Hello.
And today we are thrilled to be joined by Anna. Hi Anna, where are you chatting to us from today?
I'm in Nottingham today, so the centre of the country.
Lovely Nottingham, fantastic. And Anna, you are part of our student engagement team. Tell us, what does that mean? What do you do?
So I essentially have a list of students that I'm given by Festive, and then over the course of the year I will email them and commit to praying for them, whether they email back or not, but I will give them the kind of opportunity to give prayer requests and just encourage them in their walk with Jesus over their time at Sixth Form and College with any prayer requests, advice, anything like that, really.
Amazing. That's great. And we so appreciate you doing that role. And we've got a number of people like Anna who do that role. And some of you listening will be supported by our student engagement team. And we'll share at the end, if you want that support, what that looks like and how you can connect into that. But thank you so much for what you do. And I know the students who you support, I'm sure really appreciate that as well. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat to us today as well. Now, I know you are involved in Christian unions at Sixth Form. You're involved in a Christian union when you studied at uni as well. But there's also another fun fact that I thought would be good just to start off with, which is that you actually lived with Karen for a while. Is that right?
Did nearly 2 years of my life.
Wow. And I should say for our listeners, you'll have seen the topic of this podcast is living for Jesus in a tough environment. But
not my house.
The tough environment we're talking about is not Karen's house. We'll get onto what we're talking about in a bit. But I thought it'd be fun to just do a little bit of a quiz really and see how good a host Karen was during the time that you lived with her. So I've got some quick fire kind of questions that we're going to throw at Karen to see how well she knows you.
Nice.
And then you can tell us how accurate or right you are. Are you up for this, Karen?
Now I feel really nervous.
Okay, cool. So question 1, here we go. Given the choice, Karen, would Anna choose tea or coffee if you were brewing up for her?
Oh, Leah, right, that's easy. Coffee all day long. She is a coffee snob. She brought a coffee machine to my house, which I miss, because she's taken it with her. Yeah, coffee.
Coffee. Is that correct, Anna?
Yeah, I am sadly addicted to coffee.
Yeah, and a coffee snob, apparently. Is that fair? Cool. Karen, would you describe Anna as a morning person or as an evening person?
This is tough because when Anna was living at ours, it life was hard. Again, not because she was living at ours. So I think she struggled with mornings and evenings. So she hates me. So I'm going to say she is a solid midday person.
Sure.
And when Anna's awake, she's super awake. So as well, that makes up for beginning and end of day, I'd say.
So you're going with neither. She's not
okay.
a morning or evening person. You just want to see her at midday. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that fair, Anna?
Right at midday.
What do you feel about that?
So interesting. I would say solid morning person, I think. But 9 p.m, there's no point talking to me.
No.
That is bedtime.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Cool.
But maybe the key is pre or post coffee.
Yes.
Okay.
So how early do you do your coffee?
Cool. Next one. Anna, what is Anna's favourite takeaway?
Oh, now I live in the middle of Takeawayville, but they're all not great. So it's not something we did loads. But what do you know, I'm just going to pivot the question. What I do know about Anna is she loves a bland food, a neutral food. So she would often be found to have just pasta, just nothing on it, just boiled pasta.
Just plain pasta, wow.
Just plain pasta.
It's underrated.
Yeah?
No.
So her takeaway would be plain pasta.
Plain
is that what
pasta.
we're saying?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Anna, is that your takeaway of choice?
I think not. Plain pasta, not as a treat. An important staple in my life. Do you know what it has been this year? I do live on the corner of a Papa John's, a road with Papa John's on. So that has been my takeaway of choice. They know me by name now. Nice. Papa John knows me by name.
Cool. Are you Papa John's over Domino's then? That's a debate, isn't it?
I like their dip. I like the
Okay,
idea better.
cool.
Okay.
Good to know. Cool. And then finally, Karen, for a chilled night in, would Anna prefer to play some games, watch a film, or read a book?
Oh, it's tough. She likes doing all of those things,
Okay.
and has definitely done some of those things simultaneously. But I'm gonna say when she was living at ours, anyway, because yeah, a lot going on. I'm gonna say watch a film, but we had real problems with this though, because me, my husband, and Anna, and the kids all had very different film preferences. So, yeah, I think we watched a lot of Encanto because it's like what we could all agree on. Yeah.
Cool. So film we're going for, Anna. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that is very fair. And actually, living at Karen's was the first time I was exposed, or I watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the first
Mhm.
time.
Wow.
So I actually very much enjoyed that.
Okay. I brought something to your life.
Yeah, in more ways than one.
So yeah, we did pretty well, Karen, I'd say.
Oh,
Pretty solid.
thanks.
Pretty
I was
solid.
worried.
Pretty solid.
Right, Anna, I, for one, know you love Jesus and you love sharing Jesus. It seems a bit mad not to be grilling you today on your sixth form Christian Union or your time at uni, but today we are going to focus in on a completely different time of your life, which coincided when you lived with me. I think there's much we can learn from your experience that may really help us when we find ourselves in tough environments. Again, to emphasize, it wasn't living with me that was tough. It was your job that was tough. Your job was, Anna,
Prison officer.
you were a prison officer. Can you give us just tell us, how did you become a prison officer? How did that come about? What was on your heart, particularly as you went into that role?
So I graduated from uni in the middle of the COVID pandemic. So when I was trying to work out what to do next, like what to do with my life, most of the jobs available were working from home jobs, which I was not interested in doing in any way, shape, or form. And I'd done a couple of modules at uni about miscarriages of justice, and where the justice system goes wrong, and just got really interested in it. And kind of long story short, ended up finding a graduate scheme to do after uni, where you did a master's about the justice system and worked on the front line for at least 2 years as a prison officer. So I remember finding that and asking my parents, because I was back home for COVID, well, do you think I'd be a good prison officer? And they said, we've got no idea. Go for it if you want to do it. So yeah, ended up applying for that, getting that, and wanted to go into it to see if I could make some sort of difference to people's lives. I think is the kind of probably slightly naive but good intentions that I had.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, that's great. And tell us a bit about what life is like as a prison officer. What did an average day look like for you, and what did the role kind of involve?
That is a great question. I think lots of people have no idea what. I mean, I had absolutely no idea what happens behind prison walls before I worked there. And in a lot of ways, as a prison officer, you actually encompass loads of different jobs. So you are part security guard, part police officer, part teacher, parent, social worker. It's kind of all of that rolled into one. So the day itself is both really monotonous, and you've got the same routine, and you have to unlock people at the same time, and you have to get things done at the same pace every day. But then also you'll be dealing with people and people's emotions and situations that are happening, and having to de-escalate people and respond to people where they're at the time. So every day looks simultaneously extraordinarily different and exactly the same at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess a little of what that looked like is kind of going in, getting all dressed up in all of the kind of kit, which looks similar to a police officer, and then going on to your area of work, so onto the wing where where the prisoners live, and then unlocking them and kind of seeing where the day takes you,
Yeah.
facilitating their day, really.
Wow. No, fascinating. And I imagine there was some quite tough stuff to deal with. Like what was the hardest part of the role, and also what was the best part of the role?
I think, yeah, I mean, no 2 days are the same. And actually, I came home with some fantastic stories. I think the best parts of the role were just some of the conversations that you're able to have with people. When you're kind of unlocking people and then they're just unlocked for sort of an hour or so, you've not really got a huge amount else to do other than just talk. And I love a good chat, a good natter, and I love people. And so just being able to have kind of conversations about people's lives and where they're at and how they got to the place that they are, but also just some of the some of the banter was hilarious and really good fun. So yeah, I think the good parts of the job were where you're able to feel like you're able to make a difference in someone's life. So you have a small conversation that you feel that they're able to go away feeling uplifted, or you're able to make sure that a prisoner can speak to their family. You're able to kind of get that connected. And those were the parts of the job that I came away feeling like really satisfied and enjoyed. I will say I think they were few and far between, and there were quite a lot of, I guess, I like to say the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think the kind of just general vibe of the whole place is just really low, and people are at their lowest point of their lives. And so it's quite a dark place a lot of the time. And sometimes then it's hard to kind of bring any joy in that environment because there's not a huge amount of joy to be found.
Sure.
Like I remember the lead up to Christmas, that's a really hard time in prison because people don't want to be there. Everyone wants to be out with their family, and people are stuck behind walls. So kind of having to support people through that, I think is really hard when you've still got to have that kind of distance and professionalism.
Yeah.
Anna, it wasn't a walk in the park, obviously. How did your faith shape the way you went about your role?
I think my faith was central. There's no way, no way I would have been able to do that job for more than 1 week without my faith. And actually, I think it shaped probably why I wanted to do it in the first place. I think the fact that I know Jesus and I know the kind of value and dignity of human life because I know that we're all made by God and we are made to glorify God, even though that doesn't happen all the time in the world because we live in a broken world. But actually that is what we are made to do as humans. And so I think that changed. Like often people say to me, oh, how could you work with those people? Like how could you kind of bring yourself to do that when they've done kind of imagine all of the things under the sun? But actually, I think for me, I still saw them as a person and a human. And that helped me to see that all of them in kind of, despite what they've done, have dignity. And so I felt I was able to work with them without looking down on them or feeling, kind of like distance. And so actually that helped me not be too overwhelmed in the day to day because I just saw them as people and people that God had placed me near and able to work with. And I guess also showing empathy and kindness in such a tough system. Part of what a tough environment does is that it forces people to cope with it in any way they can. And prison is, I think, one of the most tough environments you can work in, the worst places you can work. And so to deal with that, a lot of the people that I worked with, you have to harden yourself essentially. And actually, if you bring in empathy and kindness, it just gets like battered out of you because it's such a harsh environment. So actually, the fact that I wasn't just trying to be kind because I was a kind person, or I wasn't just trying to be kind because I wanted people to like me. Actually, I had this belief that I can show kindness and empathy, not because of who I am or anything like that, because actually I'm taking it all from Jesus, and Jesus allows me to have that kindness and empathy for other people. It doesn't actually matter kind of what I think. I can actually do that just through him. And yeah, so I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that gave me really, a lot of power in a way.
Anna, were there any ways you were able to point prisoners or other guards to Jesus?
Yeah, this was really tough. And I think also, because I'll hold my hands up, I think it's really hard to go somewhere where you are very isolated and there's not, and I hadn't really been in that place before. I didn't really have any Christian friends at school. So I guess that was maybe a little bit of it. But apart from after school, I always had sort of Christians around me. And so when you're just on your own, it's really, really hard to keep pointing yourself back to Jesus and to keep wanting to kind of live for him, because no one else is seeing. And actually you can go in there behind those walls and you can be however you want to be, really. So I found it really difficult, and it's hard because you have to be quite distanced, like, and you have to put on a bit of a persona. And so it was hard to work out, how does this persona that I need to put on as like being, tough and doing my job properly, how does that also link with my faith? However, and I think something that we talked about when I lived with you is actually just sowing little seeds. And actually sometimes you think it's got to be these massive conversations where you I don't know, get out a Bible and turn to 5 million pages, and you feel like you see fruit in that conversation right away. But actually, more of, I think, what I was able to do was just scattering little seeds of what my life looked like, and also the hope that we have in Jesus, both with prisoners and with other staff that I worked with. So prison is one of the only places in this country where the chaplaincy is probably just as big as part of the staff team as kind of, I don't know, the medics or the officers that work there. So the chaplaincy were wonderful, and I got on really well with them. And you were able to kind of encourage them through the sidelines. So if you're talking to a prisoner about faith, you could say, would you like me to call a chaplain to come and speak with you? And also, like, I often would see prisoners reading the Bible, and again, rather than kind of putting loads about me on them, but I would actually just say, what are you reading? Tell me about what you're reading. And then just have a conversation with them that way. And then it's not actually about me, and it's about them. So I think that's quite a good way sometimes to share your faith, because you're actually talking about Jesus in the Bible rather than you as such. And then, sorry, just really quickly, also, conversations with staff were often really, in the day, really difficult to have because he was so busy. But on nights, or like in the pub after work, was a time where you're actually more able to speak to people. And I think people are really interested when you tell them that you're a Christian, because it's quite a stark contrast to some of the ways that they're living. And so I was able to have some really encouraging conversations on night shifts, and some people came to church. And in the pub after work would be how it would happen usually.
You're very chill about that. But actually, I think it's really interesting how God used you, particularly when you physically were at your weakest. So like on a night shift, and you hadn't had a lot of sleep. You're absolutely like, just want to go to bed, and actually you had some fantastic conversations just doing your night shifts, which is really interesting to see how God works in that way.
I remember coming home from one night shift, and I think I said to you, I was like, it's always 5 a.m. 5
Yeah.
a.m. is the worst time of the night shift because you're just dragging yourself to that bell in the morning, and that will be the time they turn around and say, so, tell me more about this Jesus, or and you're like, oh Lord, please. But actually, that's the encouragement, because then actually it's the voice of the Holy Spirit working through you, rather than any intelligent words that you've got to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is brilliant, Anna, and for those of us who's listening to this, who are studying in school or sixth form or college, you're probably hearing the parallels already. Hopefully, your college, your sixth form isn't too much like a prison, but you're probably already just hearing some of the parallels of what Anna's saying. Of what it's like to just try and be a light, maybe in quite a dark place, or trying to be kind and show empathy in an environment where that might not always feel easy, or feeling really isolated. I know a lot of the students that we support talk about feeling really isolated, like I'm the only Christian, or I feel like I'm the only Christian who's really trying to live for Jesus, where I study and trying to live faithfully for him when no one else sees me, and when I feel like I'm really on my own. Can be really, really hard. And I remember even looking back when I was at school and college, that thing of putting on a bit of a persona in that environment. So there's just so many parallels there. And being at school, being at college can be really tough and really difficult. And it sounds like, living for Jesus during your time as a prison officer was really difficult. What kind of kept you going during that time? Was there anything particular that kind of helped you during that season of what sounds like a really challenging and tough time?
I think I'd probably say church was like the major thing that kept me going. I moved to a random town for this job. I knew nothing and nobody in this town before I moved there, but got stuck into a local church, and that was just life changing. The fact that I could move to a random place that I didn't know anybody and do a really, really tough job, and yet people just got to know me for who I was, and supported me in that. And I ended up living with people literally offered me a bed in their house. It's just such a kind of testament to just kind of hospitality, I guess, and looking after people. There were times that I just felt so weary and tired and weak with it all, that I almost felt that I couldn't kind of, I guess, like go to Jesus myself, or I just felt like actually I just don't even know how to approach God, because the stuff I've seen, I just don't even know how to process it. But actually just taking myself to church and being honest about that with people at church, and people saying, well, let me pray with you, or let me just pray for you in this time. And I think it's important, actually, like you say, like there will be people who feel like they're in that really dark time, and whatever that looks like for you, sometimes we just feel like we've got nothing to give. And so actually sometimes letting church family or letting other Christians come alongside you and just speak into your life, or read the Bible with you, or pray with you, and like kind of opening yourself up to that. And I think a massive lesson to me across the whole time was that I am not powerful enough to do anything in my own power. And I think I probably did think that, like, before I went into it. I wouldn't have said that, but I think in my heart I did. And actually me realizing that church, Sabbath, Sundays was so important, like getting there, being with God's people, hearing from God's word. And actually ultimately I thought, I need this every week. I'm actually not strong enough. And then also just worship music when I just felt so kind of low, and I would find worship music that were basically people just singing psalms, like, so straight from the Bible. And then even when I just felt so tired, I would just hear God's words through these songs, and it would encourage me, and I'd hear God kind of speak to me through those words.
Yeah.
And then just holding on to a couple of verses. and just kind of meditating on those. So not getting too overwhelmed by loads, but actually just meditating on one or two truths from the Bible was helpful.
Yeah. Was there a particular Bible verse that kind of you held on to at that time, or God really laid on your heart?
Yeah, and I've still got it on my wall actually to this day. I think I was kind of doodling with it one day and then just popped it up there, and it's still there. I think it's from Lamentations. It's actually upstairs now, but it's because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. And like the Lord's love, His mercies are new every morning. And I think that again, it's like, even though you feel like you're in the fire, so to speak, like we have been loved with the greatest love that anyone could ever imagine. And because of that, even if we feel like we are so kind of broken and overwhelmed, we will not be consumed. Like God has made that promise to us, and He will not give us more than we can handle, whatever that looks like. And so even if He's put you in this place and you just think, why on earth am I here? And like, why has God like put me in this situation? Like He, if we turn to Him, we trust in Him, we will not be consumed. And I think at times I look back now and I just didn't even really see a way out. And I find that like funny to look back now, because God was so clearly working and so clearly kind of taking me to where He wants me to be. But I had to trust that at that time, because I couldn't see it myself. But His mercies were new every morning. And that's it. Like when you've had an awful day, that you can put your head on the pillow and pray the Lord grants you sleep, and the sun will come up if the Lord allows it, and His mercies are new, and you're ready to face a new day.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's so good, so encouraging. That encouragement just to keep going, even in that tough season, to keep connecting into community, to keep going to church, to keep going on with God and trusting Him, and to stay rooted in His Word. That's real encouragement, I think, for all of us and for those listening, as we face some of those tough challenges.
So Anna, I hear you, and I was there, and it was sometimes very tough to live as a Christian. I miss your singing, by the way. Like this girl sings constantly. So her using worship music to help her also helped our family, because you'd know where she was in the house, because she'd just be singing away at the top of her lungs, which was lovely, and we miss it.
In prison as well, to be fair.
I was going to say that earlier. You did do that in prison. There's another little way that you scattered seeds of positivity, wasn't it? When you were in a very
depends on your opinion.
yeah. But you just think that wasn't what the other guards were doing. That's something that you bought of yourself, wasn't it? That was a gift that you had and a seed that you had. And you ran with that. You're like, I'm going to bring positivity and joy, and I'm going to sing, and I'm going to be a different kind of guard, which I think from what you were saying, the prisoners really appreciated for the most part. And the guards found interesting at the very least. But yes, even though it was sometimes tough, and you talk about looking back on it now and knowing that God was clearly at work, I just want to draw out, but after you'd left the prison service, so you're no longer there was a real breakthrough with one of your colleagues. Can you share a bit about what God did there?
Yeah, and this was so encouraging, and it's like one of the major encouragements of my life, to be honest. And also it's so encouraging because it has nothing to do with me. It feels almost like when you just feel that you're a sideline on God's plan, and you're able just to witness some of His goodness through watching something happen to someone you know. So that feels like a real blessing. So I had a friend, one of my colleagues that I worked with in the prison service, that I really loved. I got on really well with. Kind of love her to this day, actually. And that wasn't, I don't think I had many friends, to be honest, at work in the prison service, but this person was one, and had loads of conversations with her about faith, mostly in the pub after work, after a few pints, to be honest. And I remember I'd be cycling home after these conversations in the pub and just be praying just out loud on my bike to God, saying, please just sow any seeds of that. I can't even think what I've said. I don't even know if it was coherent or helpful. And she was yeah, a few pints in, I just hope some of it maybe would take root kind of in her life.
Yeah.
Didn't really see much of that, but she was fascinated about
Mm.
kind of the way that I lived. So that would carry on for probably about a year. She then left the job, didn't really have a huge amount of contact with her afterwards.
Mm.
And then God was clearly just watering that seed and like working in her life. And I thought about her a bit. And then randomly one year on my Facebook, so probably about a year after she'd left the job, I just see this massive post about the fact that she's like become a Christian. This massive post on Facebook about how the Lord has like brought her like, you know, into kind of into salvation, and
Wow.
got a new life in Jesus and all. And I was just absolutely astonished.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say like her life looks exceedingly different now, like really, really different. And she'd say that herself. And so I just messaged her straight away and was like, this is just amazing. Like, tell me more about it. And we reconnected, and she shared, her story of how the Lord had just been working in her life and brought her to him. And it's just been such an encouragement to see. And she's now like absolutely living for Jesus on fire, and still got this like really, you know, intense things happening in life, but she is living all of it like with just an absolute faith in God, which is just so encouraging. And she's like doing a theology degree now, and like just an absolute evangelist, like sharing her story with kind of everyone she knows, really. And so it's just astonishing to think that actually some of the, you know, those prayers that I just sort of prayed out to God, cycling home, and I thought almost nothing of them. So I don't really know whether this is going to make any difference. And yet now someone's been brought from death to life.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I think that was just such an encouragement.
Cool. Amazing. Anna, thank you so much for sharing all of that. We are out of time, but it's been so good just hearing all of that. And I think for our students listening, just that encouragement really around the power of, you mentioned it earlier, just one of the things that you felt like you were doing while you're there was just scattering seeds. And there's lots of stuff in the Bible about scattering seeds, and just that idea of just those little conversations, those little moments, whether it's a song they heard you humming or singing, or whether it was just being positive, being showing kindness and empathy, just being a little bit different. Those seeds, we just don't get to see, do we? What God does with those. And actually, amazingly, you did get to see a little bit of something of what God did with some of those seeds through the conversations you had with your friend, and that incredible story there at the end of praying for this friend and chatting to them in the pub, and then hearing a while later that they had met Jesus. And I think that's just a real encouragement for any of our students who are listening. You just don't know the seeds that you are scattering as you live for Jesus where you are, as you persevere and push through the tough stuff of living for Jesus at college and school, as you show up each day, as you keep going, as you keep praying, as you push through the tough times, as you feel like that real isolated little light in a really dark place. We just don't get to see sometimes the powerful things that God by his Spirit is doing through us and around us. And who knows, maybe some of the students who are listening to this, you will in years to come see pop up on one of your friends from college or school's social media posts that they've met Jesus and that actually you got to be a little part of that story. Wouldn't that be incredible? So I hope today for those listening, this has been an encouragement that you've been able to hear in Anna's story, something of your story as you persevere, maybe through what is a challenging time for you at college. Maybe for some of you, it's not too challenging and that's brilliant. But for some of you, we know that school and college can be really tough. And hopefully this has been a real encouragement to keep going, to keep sowing those seeds, to keep living for Jesus where you study. So Anna, thank you so much. I think everything you've brought has been just a huge encouragement to those listening.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No, it's been great. And I guess just to finish, we just point our listeners to Anna mentioned about the Student Engagement Network. So she emails and prays for a number of students in our network. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, I would love to be prayed for by somebody, and I'd love to get some regular kind of communication over email from them checking in, seeing how I'm doing, supporting me and encouraging me, particularly because maybe you feel really isolated in your faith. If you check out our website, if you go to festive.org.uk, and then kind of /centre, you can find how to sign up for our network and the kind of support that we can offer. And you can benefit from having regular connection with somebody like Anna, who's praying for you and supporting you as well. So that's something we point you towards if you are looking for more support as you live for Jesus where you are. That's all for today. Thank you very much to Anna. Thank you to Karen. We'll see you all again soon.